Hey guys, J.Anthony here. Welcome back to my channel. Blown away. The video I posted last week on why I sold my Rolexes part 2 has grown faster than any video I've ever posted on my site before. I'm just stunned, honestly just stunned. Your comments, your feedback, incredible. I'm overwhelmed the amount of feedback I've gotten on that video. And so I read those comments like I said I would, and this is a response to one of the comments I got in that video, and I'm still going down the list. You guys give me a bunch of great content opportunities. Really appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor and leave more below, I'll keep the content coming. Trying out another new camera today. I just keep buying stupid cameras. I don't know why. So we're trying this one out. Tell me if this one is a clear image for you and if you can hear me all right. So one of the great questions I got, and I had to take notes, was, my last video I said, why I sold my Rolexes and I was going to be myself. And I gave you guys honest feedback and told you what I didn't like and liked. The consensus was you guys want me to be just myself, and that means I'll do the same prerequisite on this video. If you're easily offended or you don't like bad language, probably tune out now. I'm just going to speak my mind. And I don't know, every time I talk I get a little out of breath, so forgive me on that. One of the great questions I got was, what watches do you think are absolute shit? And what watches do you really like? In particular, what watches would you not recommend? Again, there's things that I just think are crap and was part of the content of my previous videos. So what would you say, steer people away from? And yes, there are watches that I think are absolute dog shit, but I don't really want to talk about them in that way, because the reality is that a watch is an emotional decision. And again, I've never created this channel to be someone that just offends people and just dings people for the decisions they've made. I recognize that there are watches that people have bought that I think were absolute crap, but they could have been a gift from a loved one or something that just has a significant meaning to them, or they just like the design. And I don't want to be one of those people, and I'm sure you've all watched channels where people do this, where it's like, you're a fucking moron if you bought a watch like this, and only, not watch enthusiasts would buy something like this. I don't want to criticize people for the decisions that they've made. People can criticize me for the decisions I've made. Not everybody's going to agree with my decisions in life. So I am going to tell you watches that I personally wouldn't look at, and I think I'm going to approach this from the perspective of ones that I just don't think are that great of a value. Those of you that have watched my channel, you know that I take a sense of value on everything that I do. To me, money is a resource. It's one that should be respected, and it isn't how much something costs, it's how much you can get for the money. I'd say that's what really motivates me. I make everything go back to a car analogy because that's just my thing. If I'm going to go spend, just make this stuff up, $60,000 on a used BMW 7 Series or 60 grand on a used Lexus, I look at the cost of ownership over the next 4 or 5 years I plan on owning that car. Is it going to cost me, 20 or 30 grand if I buy the BMW and out of service maintenance, and then it's going to depreciate that much more versus the Lexus? And I approach everything in life the same way. When I buy real estate, where can I make the most money back if I ever wanted to rent it out? What's going to be the best opportunity to increase my investment? And watches, the same thing. If I can spend $100 on a watch, what companies offer me the best bang per buck? Where am I getting the most quality and the most value for the money? So I just want to settle that up so you guys understand where my mind comes from, where my state of mind comes from. Again, you give me any price point. You say, J.Anthony at $100, at $500, at $1,000, at $25,000. What do you think are good choices? What do you think are bad choices? And my response to you is going to be, these watches you're getting, A, B, and C, that you're not going to get for other watches in that price point, and that's why I recommend those to you. I look about bang per buck. Again, you can spend your money on a lot of things. I think I come from the perspective of respect money as a resource and use it to go as far as you can and get the most you can for your money. What's the best bang per buck? So in the watch world, a lot of the watches that I would say are absolute dog shit, I won't name the names just quite yet, are watches I just think are just really overpriced for the price points that they play in. I think a lot of the biggest offenders are in the sub $1,000 range. There's a ton of watches under $1,000 that I just think are ridiculously overpriced. And then there's watches in the 5,000 and up range too that I just think are absurd. So I had to take some notes because I don't really think about these watches that often. So let's kind of start off at the $50 to $500 range there. I'm making that up. Where I get a sense of value, I'll name the watches I think give you a really good bang per buck in that range. So starting off like the $50 to $150, $200 range. Watches that I think are really good value, and then I'll tell you why there's ones that I wouldn't recommend. Invicta. You go on the internet, there's a lot of hate for Invicta. There's a lot of people that are fanboys of Invicta. I don't know, I think I own one Invicta now, I've owned a couple in the past. Do I think they're the greatest watches ever made? No, but they have a lot of bang per buck. You can get Seiko movements in them, you can get Miyota-based movements in them. They have decent fit and finish, they have decent bracelets, and they discount the hell out of them. So it's like if you look any retailer in a mall or wherever they sell these things, they have like absurd MSRPs. They say, oh, the watch is $500, $600, whatever the hell it is. It's all made up bullshit. The reality is you can pick those things up all day long on Amazon or on eBay for under $100. And a lot of guys have seen the Invicta divers. Totally recommend that watch. You can get a really good Invicta diver with a Miyota or a Seiko automatic movement for under $100 with really decent fit and finish. So I'm using that kind of as a baseline as the value for money you can get. You know, you've seen it on my channel. I highly recommend Orient Makos. You can get an Orient Mako right around $100. Under $200, you can get a Seiko Monster, not the one that I've shown on my channel, but a non-JDM version, probably an SKX series, older generation, under $200, not a problem all day long. I'd recommend Fossils under that price point too. Fossils, if you ever take the case back off of a Fossil, they usually use as like a Seiko-based movement or a Japanese-based movement regardless. They have pretty decent fit and finish. And yeah, the retail's over $100, but you go to a store that offers discounts on them. In the US, I go to a place like Nordstrom's Rack, you can pick up a really good Fossil for like 50 or $60. So just giving you, I'm saying this stuff now because I want you to understand what I think of a good sense of value is for these price points. So then when I tell you why these other watches are a ripoff, you can hopefully understand why I think that they're such a ripoff. And also bear in mind too, I don't pay retail for anything. I think anybody that pays retail for something is, putting it nicely, leaving money on the table. Again, money is a resource to be respected. Paying sticker for anything to me is just an absurd thing to do. Look for deals. Don't buy something at list price, please. You're being silly. You can find anything you really want at a discount. So do your research, be patient, look around and find things for a good price too. Don't overpay for something, it's dumb. Second, you buy something anyway, you're losing value on it 9 times out of 10. So you do your favor and find the best deal you can. So again, under this price range watches, again, I would consider a good deal because again, I'm gonna use this as to contradict what I think sucks in that price point. Victors are great. Obviously, I'm a Seiko dude. I get off on Seiko all the time. You can see me, you know, telling you the Monster is the greatest watch in the world in half of my videos, so sorry about that. Again, Fossil I think makes great watches. Timex. I don't own any Timex, don't plan on owning any Timex, but I've examined these things in person, and they're actually really nice watches for the money. They're made, you know, in Asia. They're not Japanese movements, but I think they're, you guys can tell me, I think they're made in the Philippines or wherever they're made, but their quality control is really good. I've held a couple that were like 30, 40 bucks. They had a nice leather band on them. They had really smooth feeling, good quality hands. They had a really crisp printing on the dial, the case quality, everything about it. They offered a lot of bang for buck. I was really impressed with some of the Timexes I've held lately. And again, you can get a Timex for 30 or 40 bucks. And Casio. I don't know the G-Shock, but I've heard 50 million people tell me they're awesome. I have some experience with them, and I'm not going to disagree either. I think, you know, for the amount of features you get and for the bulletproof nature of those watches for $100 or less, awesome bang per buck. So again, when I think about what you're getting for the money, those are what I come to mind as those watches justify their price points and are good prices. So watches that I think are enormously overpriced. Fashion brand. There's a lot of these fashion houses that create watches that are just absurd. And within the price point that I've already established, people, if you're out there buying Boss watches or Armani watches or Diesel watches, there's a whole bunch of these like off-brand fashion watches. A lot of these things are made by like companies like Fossil Group. So they're basically a watch that would justify a price of maybe 50 to $100, and they're putting a designer label on it, and now they're charging you $300, $400, $500 for a watch at the same quality point. Total waste of your money. If you really like the style, your decision. I've taken watches like these apart, I've looked at them, their quality for the $400 or $500 they're charging you for some of these watches, they're lucky to justify a $50 to $70 price point on a discount store. I mean, they're no better than a Fossil, like, at least the ones I've looked at. And some of these, I mean, like Diesel watches, for example, they have some really cool case designs. I'm not gonna lie, I really like the way some of their designs look. But you can also get those on deep discount. I've seen those at stores like Nordstrom's Rack for like 60 bucks. At 60 bucks, that watch justifies that price. A Diesel watch for $270, $300, you're throwing your money away. Wouldn't recommend it at all. Other big offenders that I just hate, ESQ. ESQ is a lower end Swiss-based watch. their case quality and opening up the case back, they use a cheap plastic retainer ring to hold their generic ETA, if it even is based quartz movements in them. Their case quality and their construction quality is no better than a $50 or $60 watch. And if you are okay with that kind of a quality of watch, then I don't know why you're not out there looking at like a Seiko or a Fossil. I mean, a Fossil is going to be every bit as good of a watch as an ESQ. And if you can deal with the fact that it doesn't say Swiss made on the bottom of it, you're getting something of the same quality for significantly less money. I would have to fight myself from laughing hysterically if somebody told me that they spent $400 or $500 on an ESQ watch. Given that, again, all the ones that I've looked at in my lifetime, their quality is no better than a $50 or $60 discounted Fossil watch. So, sorry if you bought an ESQ. I can definitely never recommend one of those guys. Movado. So now if we're talking about watches, maybe $500 to $5,000. I know it's quite a range. Movado's a huge offender to me. I think Movados are ridiculously overpriced. They're museum timepieces. I know a lot of guys are, big fans of the style. I appreciate that they have a unique look to them. They're nice looking watches if that's your taste. I appreciate the minimalist look of them. But the quality is not justified by the price point. Any of those Movado museum pieces, the bracelet's okay, the dial, all that very basic design, it's okay quality. Take the case back off, cheap ass shitty piece of plastic holding in a generic quartz movement. It's not horology by any stretch of the imagination. It's a printed circuit board with a plastic ring thrown into a pretty case, and they're charging you $500, and my God, I hope you don't pay this much, $1,000 for the privilege of having Movado written on your watch. And I know a lot of my audience too is all concerned about how if they get any prestige from the watches they buy. I can assure you, you're probably not going to get a lot of respect from other watch guys for buying Movado. I'm just being honest with you. I wouldn't think twice of a Movado. I think they're just overpriced pieces of watches. I'm just trying to be really nice here. Older ones, there's some ones from the 60s, 70s, and there's some other higher ones that use it, like ETA Valjoux movements on them. I mean, those are all right, I guess. But again, I wouldn't be paying, like, my God, if you're getting one of those automatic ETA movements, you're paying over $1,000 for it. Hell, you can get an ETA based watch for look at like a vintage Mondaine, or if you guys are watching my channel, I assume you're watch enthusiasts, you know that it's not hard to find an ETA automatic watch for under $1,000, and you can get an off-brand for like $300 to $700 range. So you can get the same quality or better quality than what you're gonna get with a Movado, with if you're just okay to go with a brand that may not have the same recognition. But yeah, Movado, I try not to smile when I see somebody that just bought one of those, because to me it's like, what were you thinking? Wow, I kind of feel a little psycho the way I just said that. One other cheap watch that I wanted to mention too that I think is just overpriced junk is Stour. The watch enthusiast in me really appreciates that they tried to do this whole vintage thing with those guys. I do. They have unique looking designs, and they have a really cool mechanical kind of feel to them. However, in person, at least the ones I've held, were absolute dog shit. The case quality was really nasty, had like sharp edges on it. The movements like really cheap, really cheap. Low quality, like Chinese Far East movements. They're just, even at $100, I feel like you're getting raped on the price. Those watches, to me, if you go on eBay and just search automatic watches ending soon, you'll see Chinese-based crap for like 10 or 15 bucks. It's the same quality as one of these Stour watches. So if you really are okay with that kind of quality of watch, go buy one on eBay for 10 or 15 bucks with some made-up luxury-sounding name, like some unpronounceable Italian name. You'll get the same amount of recognition and the same level of quality, and you'll save yourself, 80 or 90 bucks. Also in that range, I kind of forgot to, is I get, Sterling Original. I think people have looked at those. Sterling Original they have like these goofy marketing names for their movements, but they're all, to my understanding, like sourced Far East movements. I think they have some Seiko movements in them. Seagulls are good movements. But again, if you've watched my channel, go out and buy a Parnas, then pay, 50 to 100 bucks on an eBay auction and save yourself money versus buying a Sterling Original. Again, you're paying more money for a name that means nothing and a movement they've done nothing with, and it's low quality. One of the watch companies that I give a lot of crap on my channel, and believe me when I say this, I really don't want to offend anybody with this, but I really don't like Tag Heuer. And I'm just being honest, and if you have a Tag Heuer, I totally respect that you like them. And the Monaco, for example, I think is a really cool, classic, vintage-looking piece, but every Tag Heuer that I've looked at has just failed to impress me. And I'd say I understand recent ones are getting better. So understand that my knowledge point is Tag Heuer's made, let's say 5 years and older. I've examined a bunch of Tag Heuer's, like just even like quartz, like dress watches or quartz, not dress, I mean, there's like the, like, not aqua racer, but they're just kind of like quartz, like sport looking dive men watches. And the people that bought these paid over $1,000 for them. Now on eBay, you can probably get one for like $300. And their quality is just crap. I mean, I'm really sorry to say this, but I've held these watches, and when you can get an Invicta or a Timex for under $100 that has a better quality bracelet and has a better quality case back and has the same level of fit and finish under the case, that tells me that you've paid into all this marketing hype and you've just thrown your money away. You know, when I've taken these watches and I've looked at the insides of these watches, it's again, generic ETA probably source circuit board, movement or circuit board movement, quartz movement, I'm being goofy, and some cheap ass plastic retainer ring holding it into a case. Anybody that's spending $1,000 or more on a watch that has a crappy piece of plastic holding and some generic Swiss quartz movement, and I know everybody's like, oh, but it's Swiss. Go look on eBay. These movements are under $100, and you can get a Swiss quartz movement for $30 or $50. So take a $30 or $50 Swiss movement, put it into some crappy case. Let's just say, well, let's be nice. Let's say that they use like an Invicta level quality case. If Invicta can make a watch with an automatic movement for under $100, and then throw on top of that some Swiss made quartz movement, you know, maybe this watch on a really, really good day, and I'm being very generous, costs somebody $100 to make, and it has quality no better than a $150 watch, and you're going to go pay $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for this, you were so getting ripped off. And, you know, I know everybody's like, well, oh, but they have, you know, these new, what is it, the 1886 movement, and they're going in-house, and their quality is so much better, and whatever. The 1886 movement is based on a Seiko design. Don't believe me, look it up. Which makes me happy, of course, because I love Seiko. And the rest of their movements are ETA-based movements, and somebody was just asking me last week about the caliber 16 movement. And I'm in marketing. You give something a fancy name, you can erase some of this in. A caliber 16 is an ETA 7750 Valjoux movement. Nothing against that movement, but it's not a caliber 16, you know, Tag Heuer movement. It's a generic Valjoux movement that they've given their own caliber to make it sound all hoity-toity, and then they can charge you more money for it. I don't need to tell you guys how much you can pick up a nice Swiss-made nice Swiss-made Valjoux powered watch. I mean, you can get one for $400 or $500 on eBay all day. It's the same movement, guys. You know, so if you can live without the brand recognition of Tag Heuer written on the dial, you're doing yourself a favor and you're saving yourself a bunch of money. And on the second-hand market, Tag Heuers are dogs. Nobody buys them. Getting up into that price range too, there's a bunch of other watches that just have zero resale. Just warning you guys, because they really have nothing significant anymore. They're just marketing machines. And it's really sad, because a lot of these companies made in the day have actually had some really good innovations, and they may have had some really special things that made them unique back in their day. But now they're just a bunch of ETA rebadgers with cases and just made up marketing history. So again, I'm going to offend people, and I'm sorry. Feel free to tell me I'm a fucking asshole. Ebel, if you guys like Ebel, I know that there's a bunch of you out there. They have no resale. They really have nothing significant to their watches in the last several years, and I would probably recommend you stay away from them, because on the secondhand market, nobody wants to buy them. And you're just, unless you want to keep the watch for the rest of your life, you're getting the quality of a $400 or $500 watch. You're paying ludicrous money for it, and it's going to have no resale after you buy it. Longines. Really, really sad. Longines used to have some incredible movements back in the day. Now they do a bunch of warm over ETA watches. They do have some pretty decent bang for buck. What is it? The master pieces. I can't remember what they're called. Please feel free to correct me down below. They have some really cool innovations based off the ETA movements. I shouldn't say innovations, but complications based off ETA-based architecture. You can get watches that have a very cool classic look to them with a ton of complications. And because they have zero resale value after you buy them, if you're smart and you buy one pre-owned, you might be able to get a pretty decent watch with a ton of complications for right $1,000. So Longines, I would say don't ever buy one new. They have awful resale and they have terrible depreciation, but they actually might be a decent value for you aftermarket, or not aftermarket, pre-owned. What other watches can I bash while I'm on this roll? Ulysse Nardin. I know there's a bunch of guys out there that think Ulysse Nardin is this really high echelon watch manufacturer, and don't get me wrong, they have some ridiculously complicated pieces with like repeaters and everything else, but most of the watches that the people that watch my channel can afford in the $2,000 to $10,000 range, warmed over ETA movements. Again, nothing special about them. If you like the style, that's great, but there's watches within that price point. Glashütte Original, I mean, of course, I'll say Rolex, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Zenith, which has terrible resale but awesome quality, that have in-house movements that are, they're respected because they've done a lot in the watchmaking world. Ulysse Nardin, again, they have these great high-end complications, and they may have done stuff in the past, but in what you're paying for in the, the $1,000 to $10,000 range, you're not getting any of that. You're getting a warmed over ETA movement with a pretty name on the dial. I wouldn't recommend them. Girard-Perregaux, do I think they're fundamentally overpriced? No. However, they get zero respect aftermarket, and their price depreciation is stratospheric. In-house movements, really cool watches. I like the Girard Genta kind of mystique and look design to some of their watches. They have Jean Richard, also entry-level watches. Awesome pieces. I have a lot of respect for them. The reason that I'm talking about them now is because, again, they have stratospheric depreciation. And I just talked to jewelers. They stay on the shelves. Nobody wants to buy them aftermarket or secondhand. I don't know why that is. I'm not saying it's fair. But I'd recommend you guys stay away from those two. Not because I think they're crap, I think they're actually really nice watches, but because, well, I would only recommend you buy one used, and I would recommend you haggle on the price because you can get a really good deal. I would highly, highly recommend you stay away from them like the plague new, because you're just going to be burning 80% of the money you throw into them immediately. You're never going to get that money back out of them. Sadly, I'd probably put Zenith in that group too. Zenith, I don't understand what it is, why they don't get the recognition they deserve. The El Primero is a fantastic movement. Rolex has used it. Tons of people have used it. They have some awesome watches, but for whatever reason, their resale is terrible too. Secondhand Zeniths, though, awesome watches. Go look at those guys. Those are freaking awesome watches. Other watches that I think are just overpriced or junk. I probably would say some Omegas, and they're ones that I've actually probably owned or considered too. Some of the Omega quartz pieces, even the Seamaster I've shown on my thing before. I think that watch at $2,200, which is what I paid for it, I think was a huge overpriced thing. The resale is okay, and they have that great brand recognition and mystique, but again, what goes into that watch in terms of the quality of the bracelet, in terms of the movement that's a warmed over ETA movement in it, and just the overall construction quality. If you're a watch enthusiast and you can live without a brand name, you can get something to that same quality for $500. I'd say older Breitlings, same thing. I've owned a couple Breitlings. I was stupid. I didn't record them on my channel. I wish I had. I had a Montbrelant, and I also had a Colt, and I actually really liked them. But in terms of value for money, the older ones, they're not really there. The Chronomats, especially the ones from the 90s, I mean, the build quality on those is really kind of sketchy. They used ETA movements, and a lot of those watches today have quality that I would say is inferior to watches you can buy new now for $400 or $500. But new ones I think are nice. I haven't held any of the new ones with the caliber BO1s and the BO2s, but I've been tempted to look at those guys. Those actually really appeal to me. What else can I bash on them on this video? I've owned a couple of these guys too. Swatch watches. Why would I not recommend Swatch? If you have to have something that's Swiss made, they offer, I guess, they're probably the cheapest thing you're going to find from a Swiss company with a Swiss-made watch. I will give them that. Although you can buy like an Invicta Swiss-made watch and you can get it on deep discount for $100 too. The reason that I wouldn't recommend Swatch, and I've owned a couple, and I get that there's people that are really passionate about them, is their unserviceability. Those of you that don't know, once you buy a watch, it's a disposable watch. They can never be serviced. They are like glued shut, sealed cases. Like I really like the Systems 51 watch. That really appealed to me, and I went to go look at one, and I realized that they glued the whole watch together. There's no way to take it apart. And I've seen reviews online of people that took it apart, and it just got like half the movement's made out of plastic. Now, granted, it's a Swiss automatic movement. It's supposed to have a long service life. There's a lot of really cool things about that movement, but I like my watches to last 20, 30 years, and I like the ability to work on them. And swatches for me, I've gone to the point where I just can't use them anymore because they're a disposable watch. And for even $150, you know, Invicta, Seiko, Fossil, Timex, Casio, Citizen, pre-owned Tissot's. I mean, there's so many other watches you can get for that price point. They're going to give you better case quality, a better bracelet, better finishing, and they're going to be serviceable. So I have nothing personally against watches. I've owned a couple, but value for money there isn't there. And again, they're disposable watches. So all fashion watches in general, Louis Vuitton and all, they're all just really pretty cases with really pretty names printed on the dial, but they have no real watchmaking credentials to them, and I think they're overpriced, period. And even like jewelry companies, Tiffany & Co., Cartier, I know they're probably going to start looking at in-house movements. Cartier already has. But for the most part, they're just jewelry as well, and they have no real watchmaking credentials either, and you're paying for jewelry. So hope I haven't offended anybody. This is just my opinion. Your opinion may vary. These, again, my opinions. You don't have to agree with me. Feel free to disagree with me. Tell me that this is fucking bullshit. I don't care. Again, no meaning to offend. These are my opinions. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for your support. You guys are freaking awesome. I've already gained 1,000 subscribers in the last 6 months, and it just keeps going up. I can't keep up with comments anymore. I'm honored. This is just great. Please leave me your comments below. Really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And thank you so much before the battery dies again. Hope you guys are having an awesome day.